welcome our regular board Tuesday, May 6th, 2020. Start by acknowledging that the new Westminster School District recognizes and acknowledges the Type First Nation as well as all Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional and unceded territories we live, we work, we play, and we do our work. As we gather today, we also recognize our shared responsibility to continue learning from Indigenous voices, to build meaningful relationships grounded in respect and understanding, and to ensure that our actions reflect our commitment to reconciliation and to the well-being of Indigenous students, families, and communities. We'll start by adopting the agenda. It's a recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 40 New Westminster adopt the agenda for the regular school meeting. Thank you. Item 2 is approval of the minutes. School District 40 New Westminster approve the minutes as distributed for the April 28th, 2026. Seconder, any changes required? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, we're at delegations and introduce yourselves and your slides. But if you wouldn't mind,
we're the Monkey Rubber Club based in Westminster Secondary School, and we're here to share a proposal. And then we don't and we've also presented to Rust for the annual climate conferences and with us, and we've attended several climate rallies as well.
Can we go to the next slide?
The members and Minister of Environment of BC, after the 15-minute city motion Environment for June 9th this year to ask for 3 things for the committee to add to the budget of 2027. Next.
Our first ask will be that we wish to see funds allocated to changing the BC curriculum so that climate education is clearly and specifically added in every grade level. So we would like to see climate content in the education added from K to 9, but we'd also like a mandatory climate rate in grades 11 or 12. So this would be fulfilled by taking a climate-oriented class, which could be anything from the environmental science, social class. And our hope with this is not just students we want to create more climate-aware citizens in the future.
For a second ask to the BC provincial government is that we want them to do such in fossil fuels because they cause irreparable damage to our environment. And our ask is that they also invest some more into electricity, solar, wind, and nuclear energy, so that hopefully we'll have a more clean energy grid. Next slide.
So, for all young and old, because all these it would eventually lower climate change. We attracted like and yeah, it just kind of seems unfair that things like the West have that, and it'd also be good to have like the next slide. And also,
so what we like would like. So basically, as we kind of mentioned, or just to get your guys' support, when talked about the committee, and basically without the money dedicated to actual change, all the change in the next slide.
Thank you for listening to us. We hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you all. Trustees, questions?
The people online have, they can't hear, there's an issue with the sound quality.
Thank you. Just give us 1 second.
Can you hear us now? Online?
Maybe give a thumbs up if you can hear.
Is there anyone online? Can you hear us now?
It was just cutting in and out quite a bit. So if you talk a little bit more.
Okay.
Can you hear us now? Is this better? Are we coming through?
It is better, but it's very quiet.
What if we have the thing again versus? Yeah. So we need to pull one out.
We had the same issue last week. Same issue with it.
Presenters. If we speak, can you hear me now? Am I loud enough?
Very clear.
Okay. So we just have to use not Jim voice, but back loud.
Well, thank you, Monkey Rebel Club.
Yeah.
Trustees, Danielle?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you and point out some of the initiatives that the district has done. We did put forward a motion for free transit for all, and it's very exciting. I'm always of the frame of mind that the more voices they're advocating, hopefully it's getting more ears to some changes. So very, very exciting. This initiative and really appreciate it. I know there's a motion coming later that we're going to discuss. So I know that the BC School Trustees Association has also done some advocacy around climate education. So again, the more voices, I certainly support the work you're doing. Very much appreciate it. Boldness and your courage to come and share your thoughts on this. We need students like you, teacher, and I appreciate you coming and asking for what you deserve and what you need for your future. So thank you.
Trustee Carlson?
I echo the appreciation. I always appreciate seeing students and young people here engaging thoughtfully on issues that we really care about. Public speaking and advocacy takes a lot of courage. So I want to thank you for bringing these forward, and yes, I do support you.
Trustee Andrews?
Yeah, Dean, so I'm on the climate action working group along with your teacher behind you. And so we get to hear your ideas directly at that working group through your teacher. And so she brings that forward and represents your voice there, and hearing you here as well. I just want to thank you because that gives us direction and helps us prioritize what we're doing as well. So,
Trustee Russell?
I had a question and a comment. I wanted to just clarify, is it the provincial Ministry of Finance budget consultation that you're participating in, or was it the city of New Westminster? Super clear. Okay, impressive, everybody. Okay. That's amazing. And yeah, just with other trustees on a committee on this, really, really strong and remarkable articulate leadership. It's really, really appreciated, and it's important. Yeah, just thank you. I think you have a very receptive audience in this Board of Education. And I know we don't like to pass motions immediately after we hear presentations, but I think maybe later on or at our next meeting, we'll have a presentation.
Thank you, Trustee Russell. Yeah, I just want to say it is very impressive that you are be presenting to this like standing committee related to the provincial budget, and I applaud the passion and the commitment to this work. They're not tiny asks. They're really, really important asks. And I'm particularly excited about the transit request. If you can get young people using transit during these years, they're at school, that habit, the comfort and the skills will just continue as they age. So as Trustee Russell said, we won't necessarily do a motion of support right now, but you will likely hear from us in the very near future. And good luck with your presentation. Okay, trustees, we'll move on to agenda item. Yes.
I'm sure one of the things I forgot to say, because it's not always bad news, that's work like you students in your group is doing. I do know that in New West and in our schools, in West schools, we've done a lot of work, brought forward by students, brought forward by staff, brought forward by the public. And I do know that our carbon footprint is shrinking in Westminster. So I just wanted to share. There's also some bad news, but there is some thanks for well, keep that moving forward.
No, that's good. Thanks, Trustee Connolly. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is presentations. And our first presentation is from Director of Instruction, Sandra Singh, who will walk us through a learning story on numeracy. Folks online, are you hearing a little bit better now? Yes.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Good evening. Today we are pleased to provide an overview of the initiatives in the district that support outcome 2 from the ministry's enhancing student learning reporting order. Advance. Thank you. The definition of numeracy from the Ministry of Childcare and Education is as follows. Numeracy is the ability, willingness, and perseverance to interpret and apply mathematical understanding to solve problems in contextualized situations and to analyze and communicate these solutions in ways relevant to the given context. Next slide. Many of the initiatives that will be highlighted in tonight's presentation are included in the district's Enhancing Student Learning Report. Next slide. These initiatives align with the district's goals and objectives. Next slide. Furthermore, the strategies in section 2 of the Enhancing Student Learning Report align with goal 1 of the strategic plan. Slide. A key driver of the district's work in numeracy is supported by the Numeracy Network Learning Community. This network is made up of teacher representatives from each school. Slide. this year, the Numeracy Network anchored their work on this guiding question. What are the skills and concepts that students struggle with? Next slide.
Teachers identified 4 key areas of numeracy development for students: number concepts and computational fluency, patterns in algebra, measurement, geometry, data, and probability. The Numeracy Network developed assessments using these key areas for students in grades 3 to 9. These align with the big ideas in the BC mathematics curriculum. Next slide. This is a grade 5 number concept example about fractions and the benchmark of 1/2. Next slide. Here is an example of an increasing pattern for the algebra and patterning strand, which is also in grade 5. Next slide. Continuing with our grade 5 theme, here is a geometry question focused on symmetry with Indigenous connections. Next slide. This grade 5 example relates to data and probability. Next slide.
For primary students in kindergarten to grade 2, number assessments have been created by Joshua, our district curriculum numeracy facilitator. This assessment determines a student's general number sense. They are done in the fall and in the spring. This assessment highlights a progression of skills from emerging to extended. Next slide.
The K-2 assessments are game-based. Teachers get valuable formative data while students are engaged in playful math activities. Next slide. This assessment is done one-on-one with the teacher. Students are encouraged to express their thinking in multiple ways. Next slide.
Joshua has also designed instructional routines to support students in grades 4 to 8 with their understanding of problem solving. Next slide.
The Which Operation instructional routine is available to all staff through the staff portal. Next slide. In addition to the instructional routine itself, there are built-in lessons for teaching and practicing the various meanings of the 4 basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Next slide. There are also math posters that go with the lessons. These are graphic organizers that help to visually explain the different meanings of the 4 basic operations. Next slide. This is an example of the routine. It is often used as 1 slide per day. Students decide which operation would best be used to solve each problem, numbers 1 and 4, and explain why. Next slide. We continue to use Math Minds and Jump Math, which is a pedagogical framework that uses an evidence-based approach, blending traditional and reform methods to improve math performance. Next slide. Math Minds is based on 5 principles. Principle 1, math tells us something about how it should be taught. They are interconnected concepts. Number 2, brains are plastic, so you can think growth mindset. Number 3, working memory is limited, so the lessons are heavily scaffolded. Number 4, minds are attuned to change. And number 5, minds link overlapping events. These 2 principles are about comparing and contrasting to support conceptual understanding. Next slide. The rapid model is a key component of the Math Minds framework, focusing on structuring mathematical understanding through a coherent, evidence-based approach. How does it do this? Raveling takes a big concept and breaks it down into smaller parts, teaching each one on its own. Prompting uses contrast and juxtaposition to highlight key principles and relationships. Interpreting involves asking questions to gauge understanding and attending to all learners' responses, for example, students holding up whiteboards. Then deciding, making in-the-moment decisions tailored to students' needs. Next slide.
On this slide, you will notice some key staff and student reflections using the Math Minds approach. Staff have rich discussions as a learning community using this approach. There has been a great deal of positivity around the impact on both teaching practice and student learning. I'd just like to highlight maybe one or two of these comments that have been collected from various elementary schools. Learning feels more thorough and conceptual, with teachers frequently noticing aha moments from students as understanding develops. Increased use of whiteboards has allowed teachers to see student thinking and understanding in the moment, creating opportunities for immediate feedback and making engagement more visible. This is very key for instructional practice for students to go from short-term memory learning to long-term memory learning, and in real time for teachers to provide that feedback on what is the action the student needs to take to improve and enhance their understanding. Staff feel the approach supports learners at all levels and provides multiple entry points for success. This program is designed for all, was meant for all, and success for all. Teachers and students are both enjoying the routines that have developed within math instruction and increased confidence. Teachers are noticing increased confidence and joy from students as mathematicians and for teachers in their instructional practice. Next slide. To support kindergarten parents and caregivers with the transition to kindergarten, the district hosted 3 before-year bedtime sessions over the course of the school year. Thank you to Ileana Nielsen, Early Years Child Care Manager, for hosting these sessions. At the last session in May, Joshua shared strategies on how to nurture numeracy skills, and I presented on how to nurture literacy skills with young children. Next slide.
For this series, and in classrooms alike, we discussed the importance of nurturing mathematical habits of mind, such as curiosity, looking for patterns, generalizing, being persistent with tricky problems, and fostering a growth mindset. We gave parents examples of how to make math visible at home, such as comparing and contrasting household items. Looking for patterns and trying to describe or generalize them. Next slide. Finding and naming shapes all around us. Next slide. Sorting a variety of items and explaining how they were sorted. Next slide. Often and in a variety of ways. Next slide. As well as subitizing, which is the ability to see how many at a glance. Next slide.
The Math Festival is a wonderful community event organized by the school district where students and their families explore a variety of fun, hands-on math puzzles and games that align with the BC curriculum. We had 600 families register last December. We are already planning our 3rd annual event for next December. Elementary schools also host their own math festivals throughout the year using the district's math resource kit. I would also like to share a few highlights at the secondary level. At the high school, school administration has established January and June assessment dates to support the provincial graduation literacy assessment. Educated assessment sessions are offered to designated students who are supported by their learning support teacher and educational assistants as required. The high school also offers ELL 1-2. This course is numeracy focused. These blocks were created in response to data indicating larger cohorts of students are entering high school with emerging numeracy skills.
who may have also experienced interruption to their schooling. The ELL and counseling team work together to place students in the classes. There are 2 sections currently running in semester 2 for students in grade 9 to 12. Pre-assessment baseline was determined by an assessment tool created by Joshua and in collaboration with Joanna Andrejczyk. Next slide. I also want to highlight the Elementary Coast Metro Math Project. Joshua is a key contributor to the Coast Metro Math Project. This resource is used in the district and provincially to assist teachers in unpacking the mathematics curriculum and providing a variety of resources and instructional tools. This project has been well received right across the province by teachers and educational leaders. And lastly, I also want to note that the teachers in School District 40 are fortunate to have math resources. Next slide, please. I just wanted also, to note that teachers in the school district are fortunate to have math resources at their fingertips, which are located on the staff portal. These resources were created by Joshua as well. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. We invite any questions at this time.
Thank you so much. And my apologies, Josh, for not introducing you at the start. Trustees, questions, comments? Trustee Carlson.
I really appreciated the focus on helping students build their confidence rather than simply memorizing. Something that stood out to me when I was going through this was the multiple ways for learners and how, creating opportunities for them to show how they're thinking in different ways, as we know that not all students. And I'd like to thank you both for teaching me a new word today, subitizing. You've done your job. I do have a question, and this is coming from my parents' perspective, as so many of us had to memorize. So I'm wondering how staff is supporting families who may feel less confident in helping their children with math, as there's always different approaches to teaching.
Well, yes, the curriculum has changed quite a bit. Math hasn't changed. Math is the same. So the memorizing pieces, I think what's happening now is we're expecting more from our students. We do want them to have their math facts memorized because that's going to be very helpful for them. Especially when I had talked about the working memory piece. If you're having to think hard to retrieve basic facts, that's going to hinder you in doing more advanced questions. But we are also putting forward the focus on conceptual understanding so that you understand the math that you learn, you're going to retain it better. And in addition to that, be able to transfer those skills into more applicable areas. So that's the big piece of it.
Okay, so I'm wondering, as there's a fantastic portal for teachers, I'm wondering if there's a place for parents to go to. As many teachers or students will say, that's not the way we're learning it, Mom, or that's not the way we're doing it. So for families to understand how to help it.
So we have, so in addition to the bedtime series, I have hosted parent math nights at schools. So it's by invitation. So administrators in schools would ask, sometimes I would volunteer for that, and they've gone over quite well. I haven't done one yet this year, but I would love to do more. I really enjoy it, and then it really kind of it connects the parents, teachers, and students. So it's really nice to do.
Trustee Andres.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Joshua and Sandy. Just curious about some implementation questions. So were these number screeners a practice we were doing previously, or when did we kind of roll those out and start that?
Yeah, so the number screeners have been a work in progress over the last few years, but they're stabilized now. So they're kindergarten, fall, spring, and same with grade 1 and 2. There's actually a grade 3 fall one as well. They are very much, teacher uses them as a baseline and then again to check growth later on. And they are available on the staff portal. I have gone in and done demo lessons, worked with the learning support teachers to also help classroom teachers to understand it. So they're widely used schools now. We did use something else that we kind of borrowed from another district previously to this. But this has been overwhelmingly used now, and because it's actually a PowerPoint, so you use it as a PowerPoint with students, so it is very user friendly to be able to implement. So it's not very onerous. You don't have to collect a bunch of stuff. It just is all ready to go, and it's very play based. So the students are like, me, I want to do it next. So that's exciting.
I think you kind of answered part of my second question. So I was just asking, how are we training teachers to use math lines, and like how broadly is it out there? And so I think you kind of answered that. I guess this third question isn't directly tied to your presentation, my last question. But can you just talk about how we're doing as a district on high school provincial assessment?
Currently with our graduation numeracy assessment, again, within the context of the province, our participation levels are high and within the provincial range. What that means is our students in grade 10 do attend to writing the exam. That being said, what we have noticed is that our students are not fully meeting expectations. And this is not simply pertaining to our school district, but it's right across the province. So in that respect, enrollment is high, progress rates, there's room for improvement. And that is where the secondary admin is now focusing their attention.
Trustee Russell?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for this incredible work. I witnessed some of it at the FW Howie Spring Concert, which was an incredible performance based on math concepts. It was just really, really remarkable and very cool. I think it's really incredibly engaged. And also just interested in assessment, and maybe it's a topic for future, but I hear there's so much groaning in my household, or if there had been, about the numeracy assessment, and a real sense that that it doesn't matter. And I'm curious if we have the right evaluation instruments to tell us how we're doing, or parts would be reliable.
In the aspect of when we're thinking about assessment and how are our students progressing, the provincial assessment is one data point. So we need to take into consideration other data points, as you mentioned, including report cards as well. One that I think is another key point is student voice. Is what is their attitude towards mathematics? Why do they feel that mathematics is important? What is it that they feel that they need from educators and the district in terms of continuing to progress well in mathematics? You are certainly right with the point that the current provincial assessments do not count. However, that being said, they are beginning to count for students as they continue to want to pursue post-secondary learning.
Trustee Connolly?
This made me go back and revisit. It was September 2025 when the board went for the numeracy funding motion, and I don't think that it was met with the response that we wanted, which was funding support numeracy mandates. from a presentation that I believe you both gave, just talking about these exact things. So, it's heartening to see the work is still going ahead. It's disheartening that we're not getting what I believe is, the funding to help support these initiatives and this work. I'm also very curious about this Coast Metro group, and is that just a spontaneous initiative, or is it provincially funded, or where does I was looking, digging a bit, and there's secondment and that type of thing. So where does the funding for that group?
I can speak, certainly. So the Coast Metro Consortium is the local school district. So there's approximately 16 school district metro that participate with the Coast Metro Consortium, including our school district. One of the key drivers of getting this project up and running was the voices of directors of instruction, including myself, assistant superintendents who come to weekly meetings at the consortium, and expressing the need from what we were hearing from teachers about a centralized platform that all teachers can utilize. So the funding for that project or from the consortium comes from, our executive, and each school district contributes to the Coast Metro Consortium. From that funding, this project was launched, and we were then able to recruit highly skilled math educators, including Joshua, alongside Janice Nowakowski, who is a very well-respected mathematician from the Richmond School District, who started the work on this project. We have grown in terms of the progression of what's being offered and are currently now looking at specifically grade 8 and 9, and what are the resources required to target those grades and support teachers who teach at that level.
It's really, so I very much appreciate that, and I feel very lucky to have like yourself, Joshua, in the district. You obviously bring a large amount of expertise, and I think that our district is very lucky to have you. It's a little disheartening to hear that districts are paying for a consortium to build resources. That to me seems like it should be from the province. So something I might dig a little bit more into. Unless I'm missing something, it seems like we're kind of paying to fill a gap that's not being filled by the province, who is the purveyor and mandator of what students are to be learning. So that's unfortunate, but kudos and thank you so much for the work that you are doing as a group. And again, we're very, very lucky to have that kind of collaboration and bringing the best practices and resources, something very great.
Thank you, Director Singh. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Our second presentation is from Director of Instruction, Jenny Richter, and District Principal, Indigenous Education and Equity, Sanj Joe. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. So today we'll be sharing some key messages for the ministry based on the Aboriginal How Are We Doing report for 2025-2026. So this presentation focuses on what the data tells us, where concerns are emerging, and how this connects to ministry policies. We'll walk through both of the provincial context and what we're seeing locally in our district. Next slide, please. So the ministry's letter reinforces its ongoing commitment to truth and reconciliation. A major focus is improving Indigenous student graduation outcomes. And each year, districts are expected to review their Aboriginal How We're Doing data carefully. This is not just about reporting, but it must actively inform a few key areas: the strat plan, the framework for enhancing student learning, the use of Indigenous education targeted funding, as well as collaborative planning with Indigenous Education Council. So in short, data must drive action in partnership. Next slide, please. So provincially, the ministry is very clear. Graduation gaps is a priority concern. Describe the gap as evidence of the, quote, racism of low expectations, end quote, which underscores the urgency. The graduation gap remains significant. Indigenous students are about the 67% completion. Non-Indigenous students, over 92%. We also see differences in adult dogwood rates under the age of 19, where there's a 19% gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous students as well. Overall, the message is that systemic inequities persist across these. Next slide, please. So in our district, locally, our data shows a critical concern, especially for Indigenous students. While non-Indigenous completion rates have improved, the gap has widened. The most concerning trend is a dramatic drop in Indigenous 5-year completion rates from 84% to 42% over a 5-year period. 6-year completion data shows a similar gap. And Indigenous students are at 54% versus 92% for non-Indigenous. This signals a serious and urgent need for intervention in our system. Next slide, please. Here is the FSA's Foundation Skills Assessment participation improvement. Participation is improving, which is a positive sign. In grade 4 specifically, Indigenous participation is now at 78%, and achievement data shows near parity. Literacy, there you can see Indigenous 68% and non-Indigenous is 69%, and for numeracy, it's very close as well at 76 and 75% respectively. So this suggests strong early learning outcomes and potential that we need to sustain over time, and actually dovetails nicely with the work that Sandy and her. Next slide, please. Here is FSA assessment for grade 7s. Now here's what you'll see is a bit of a change, and the picture changes significantly here. So participation is lower at 67%. And more importantly, we're looking at the literacy and numeracy gaps. And the literacy gap increases sharply, and the numeracy gap becomes very pronounced. So this indicates that middle years are a key turning point for students, specifically Indigenous students. And this is where we start to see disengagement and learning gaps deepen. Next slide, please. Connect to that is attendance and engagement. And in the K to 7 realm, attendance trends are improving for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students in terms of chronic absenteeism. And I just want to define chronic absenteeism based on the ministry's definition. So chronic absenteeism defined by the Ministry of Education Child Care is a student who misses 10% or more schooling per the year, which is equivalent to 2 days or more a month, which when you think about that for the year, it's 18 to 20 days, which is 1 month of schooling collectively. As you can see, Indigenous chronic absenteeism dropped from 54 to 45%, which is growth. However, 45% is still not something that we want to brag about. Non-Indigenous also improved slightly, but this tells us that early interventions and engagement strategies may be having a positive impact, but that's something we need to unpack. As I said, the rates are still quite high. Next slide, please. And the story gets a little more concerning here for grades 8 to 12. So our secondary attendance is moving in the wrong direction, as you can see. Indigenous students increased to nearly 85% chronic absenteeism, whereas non-Indigenous also increased to 71%. This is a provincial-wide issue. The ministry highlights attendance as a key predictor for dropout and reinforces that secondary engagement is a major leverage point for improving graduation rates as well.
Next slide, please.
So the Ministry of Education and Childcare has clearly identified Indigenous student success as a core accountability priority for all districts. This means that our work must intentionally focus on improving outcomes for Indigenous learners, not as an add-on, but as central to our planning. At the same time, the ministry emphasizes that data-informed decision-making is about continuous improvement. We are using data in addition to individual student stories to better understand student experiences, monitor progress, and refine our practices. Importantly, this is not about compliance or checking boxes. It's about meaningful, responsive action that leads to better outcomes for students. Next slide, please. The ministry is asking us to focus on key outcomes: graduation, attendance, and strong pathway planning for Indigenous students. We need to regularly review all graduation pathways and completion rates, and again, ensure we are hearing directly from our Indigenous students and families. We want to center on student voice to allow us to better understand where students are succeeding, where they feel they're succeeding, and where they feel the gaps continue to exist. In partnership with the IEC, we're hoping to take targeted meaningful action. Next slide, please. The key takeaways from the letter that the ministry provided to the district highlight that graduation outcomes are at their lowest in years, and that there's a clear need for action. Risk is highest in grades 7 to 12, where we must focus our efforts. Attendance and pathway planning are key levers for improvement, and strong trust-based collaboration with the IEC will support this. The ministry is signaling urgency with increased oversight in these areas. And I think that is something that we as a district share. Next slide, please. Some of the planned actions include a new Indigenous service support model and collaborative staffing teams to provide upfront support. We're strengthening data use through the use of EdPlan Insight with an Indigenous module that has been created to better monitor progress of services. There's a strong focus on elevating Indigenous student voice in our work. We're also exploring earlier individualized pathway planning beginning by grade 8. And we're prioritizing attendance by hopefully strengthening relationships and cultural connection. Next slide, please. These are just some of the ways that we are responding with several actions already underway. We recognize that there's still important work ahead, and this will continue to evolve. That brings us to the end of our presentation. It's time for any comments or questions.
Thank you so much, both of you. Some sobering results there. I know this is a complex challenge and there's no easy or simple fixes, but I appreciate what you've brought to us tonight. Questions, comments from trustees?
Yeah, I just want to thank our lead district leaders here for a really candid and supportive but important update. I really appreciate the honesty and clarity you're bringing to the work and your determination to change these outcomes, to take a hard look at what we're doing and what's working. I think it's incredibly important. So I just want to thank you very much for how passionately you are driving this work. I had a question about our adult dropout numbers and how those are we graduating in the adult offering?
I don't have the information in front of me, but that's something. So adult dogwood, sorry. I was in the prince, underage 19. So Indigenous is 58% and non-Indigenous 39%, with a gap of 19% between the two.
Maya?
I guess just the other thing, just I guess a comment for us as a board is that we have seen these variances appearing at middle school across a number of areas. And so I think it is not surprising many of you I have a lot of questions about our middle school model in application, and of course, superintendent has looked at this, and many have, but I think something is not working for a bunch of students in middle school, and yeah, I'm just very curious about what we do. You know, it's knowing that it's not as simple as sort of reconfiguration, but yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Andres? Oh, sorry, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I think an important core element that applies to the work that we're doing across the district is connected to the notion of raising the bar. And that if you expect more of young people and provide them supports that are tailored to them based on what the data tells us are their individual, then when those students rise, everyone else rises with rising tide lifts all boats. It's the truth in education. Holding young people accountable for the way they conduct themselves in school is part of that. But also having meaningful accountability conversations with school leaders and professional staff around how they use data and engage professional practice in order to meet the needs of their students is an important part of the transition that we've been working through for this last year and almost 2 years. And we are seeing growth in terms of the quality of collaboration that's happening, and data is starting to move. I think the work that Director Singh and the team that's here now, Associate Superintendent Wall and others have been doing around driving the conversation toward student learning always. Relationships matter, but our relationships need to be purposeful to support student learning, and that we need to create welcoming learning environments in order to create the conditions for learning. But we can sometimes focus so much on relationship that we don't focus enough on the intent of that relationship and the professional inputs we use during the creation and execution of those relationships. And that's the core of the work that we're doing. I will say that the middle schools have shifted a fair amount in the way they work to meet student needs over the course of the last couple of years. You know, Geraldine has been involved in meaningful conversations about middle school practice and philosophy and what it means, and around holding young people accountable for their learning and holding ourselves accountable to support that. So you're right, I share your concerns, and we do as well. I will really say I'm not concerned about the quality of human being that's in place to do the work. What I am concerned with is the way we've organized ourselves to support them in their doing of their work, and they participated honorably in rethinking the way we work together to support kids. So I know we'll get there.
Thank you. Trustee Andres?
Thank you. Yeah, as just on the previous slide, you'd said the new Indigenous support model. Can you just describe what those roles are for everyone so that you can understand how we're looking to support Indigenous students differently?
And so we looked at a few key areas that we needed to support Indigenous families and students in particular. I'm just going to label them off. So we looked at attendance, re-engagement plans. We looked at mental health and supporting families, connecting to community. We looked at the academic. We looked at the cultural. Those are the areas we looked at that we felt were very important as a collective wraparound support. And from there, we looked at other or possible options for the team. So what we are doing now is we have an Indigenous success teacher at the high school who will support the academic and also be embedded within the inclusive ed department as well with District Principal Miriam. We also have an Indigenous success teacher at the middle school, similar supporting academics, but also connecting with families and being embedded within the inclusive ed department as well. We will have an Indigenous literacy numeracy teacher at the elementary level. Targeted, obviously, literacy numeracy and working within the curriculum department with Sandra, with Director Sandra Singh. And the importance of that I heard across the province is we're not standalone any longer, that we are embedding Indigenous knowledge and ways of knowing and collaborating with non-Indigenous leaders as well across our province, or across our district. So that's the academic aspect of it, as well as the social emotional aspect of it. Part of that is the engagement, re-engagement, and attendance concern across the province and in our district as well. And I heard loud and clear that Indigenous outreach workers have done amazing work. And so we are hiring an Indigenous outreach worker to support that work as well, where they engage, re-engage, and connect community to family, as well as to student support and getting them back, getting to school. Then finally, the cultural piece was another area that we looked at. And we heard loud and clear January of the last school year, when I wasn't here, but I read the data, that families and kids asked for cultural support and cultural knowledge and learning. So we actioned that for next year, where we are going to be hiring a cultural facilitator, Indigenous cultural presenter, sorry, who will work in all schools and work to connect with all Indigenous students who request service. And so the hope is that that is something that will engage families to want to come and kids specifically to come to school. So that's the wraparound service delivery model.
Superintendent?
I want to speak to the importance of all of those taken together as part of the service model. But knowing that Indigenous educators at each of the levels, elementary, middle, and high, would participate in site-based teams, whereas Indigenous students talked for conversation around what targeted supports are going to be available to that student, along with their families, along with the student who are age appropriate. Changing the nature of the conversations to ensure that we're always connecting the cultural learning and security and safety and inclusion with focus on what is specifically needed to support student learning while we do those other things. And I think we heard from neighboring districts that combination of professional services and supports has had an impact on, we always talk about data, but more important than data is the individual stories that make that data. You can follow the number, but that number represents a person's story or a portion of their story. We understand that work, that focus on relationship, focused on learning, has had a powerful impact.
Yeah.
I was just going to point out too that even though the positions are like one is titled high school, middle, and elementary, there is the expectation, especially with the transition work, that is key, that they will be supporting each other and there will be connections made. So you may have a secondary teacher who may be supporting with some assessment at the elementary level, for example. So there is this expectation of a circle of continuity and collaboration, even though there is kind of a specific area bonus.
I guess my last point is just listening to families that have come forward and hearing talking about this change. I hear a real sense of grief at the lost relationships with Indigenous support workers that we had in our schools and how they have worked with families and been part of families over our past years. And I guess I'm asking, like, I fully acknowledge all of these changes. Like the report is really clear in terms of the district needing to do something different in order to improve our outcomes. I'm wondering if we could have included these roles, I think, moving forward on top of that. And so I guess that's just a question maybe we could I think superintendent, I don't expect you to have that answer, but yeah, just to.
I think you've engaged in an examination of the model. Staff were directed to go and do that work. Returned with that model, consulted with the IC, and arrived at a model that we believe will be effective based on what we see in the data and experiences of others and the best practices. I think that the targeted dollars moved through the process in a way that was appropriate and was supported by the Indigenous Education Council. And so you're in a position where those dollars have been allocated to provide those supports in a staffing model that is new. It isn't available to you to spend twice. And that is just the challenge of change. I think it's really important to know that changing the model isn't about abandoning the relationship. It's about using different professional staff in a very different model to approach relationship in a way that aligns with what the tripartite agreement would expect of us, the provincial policy on Indigenous education would expect of us. But we fully expect all of those folks, from the cultural presenter to the outreach worker to the teachers, to be involved in relationship with Indigenous children and families, and to help create relationship between families and other staff members.
Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of the questions I had have been answered. I did have one. You spoke a lot about elevating the student voice. When I read through this, I wrote the question is, how are Indigenous students themselves helping to shape their priorities? You speak about elevating their voice. I'm wondering, how is this?
Yeah. So, so Amy Laidlaw, who's now the VP of FRMS, her and I have connected several occasions. We're working with UBC. Jessica Knott, who is the director of the Indigenous Studies in Education. So we're working together to bring Indigenous students in grades 9 to 12 together on June 18th. At End Up, where we're going to talk about Indigenous excellence and finding your voice as well. We're looking at bringing in a speaker to present to the kids. And then in the afternoon, we want to actually have some of you from here at the table facilitate conversations and ask questions that we are looking at. For example, what areas in your school do you feel safe or seeing things of that nature, so that you're recording for us and hearing directly from them. But we're planning that currently right now. So that's June 18th for the full days, what the plan is currently. But myself, Jessica, and Amy still have to meet to tighten everything up. So that's one example. Yeah, put it there. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the plan currently right now.
Great idea. Trustee Connolly, oh, sorry, are you?
No, I just thank you. That was
Okay, awesome. Trustee Connolly?
I just wanted to share with folks who are not familiar, IEC is Indigenous Education. Council, thank you, Steve, and I'm not. Yeah, so many. My question was, and I think you may have answered it, but the concern is around students who might come into our district a little bit later or enter school and just, are those students flagged for some immediate attention to see what, where they're at, what their needs are, especially around what they're receiving.
So we currently have a couple of things that were already in place. Part of this year, for example, I mean, you should speak to
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah. So again, I started in October, but November, December, we had school-based Indigenous SBTs or school-based team meetings where it was specifically focused on Indigenous students. So myself, and at times Amy would join, but my studies were also part of those conversations where we talked about all the students in the entire school district. So I visited each school. From there, we created a list of students who we felt needed extra targeted support and services. And there's about, I think, 34, from what I recall, in November, December. And there's more about re-engagement plans. Over the course of the year, we went down to about 8 or 7 that were still needing extra additional support. Now, the challenge with that was there's mental health components to that too, and so working with our community partners to that. But for me, the work that we have done so far has been positive to really reach students. Keeping in mind it wasn't just a linear, it was a process, you know, it's messy. But that being said, we re-engage more students with the supporting that work.
And then I was just wondering around with the Indigenous cultural presenter, I was at a School Trustees Association meeting last week, and they were talking. There was some trustee from Delta talking about how they along with students from that are more engaged in that as well. So I wonder if there's some of that kind of outreach. With, you know, I know that we've heard about the need for students to get on really to the culture and their culture, and especially other students. I don't know how specifically for Indigenous students, but I do know that, you know, some districts have more resources and more. That I'm looking forward to. Is that what?
Yeah.
This ritual will do?
That was Delta. Yeah. So Steph Mackey, who works a similar job with Brooklyn, is a friend of mine, and we talked about that. And it's a rite of passage ceremony that they do for grads, for Indigenous grads specifically. And I said I want to do that too. So we're looking at so part of the piece of, I think, amazing thing about being in the West is that we have so many neighbors who are very open and willing to work with us. And so building those relationships is a big part of that in my role. And so I do look forward to see what we can do, but I also want to talk to the kids and find out what they want to do as well. And I would think that the cultural presenter could help support that piece as well. So more to come.
Yeah, I do know that we have heard that in the past. Students are kind of wanting to go and immerse themselves.
Place-based learning. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you. I know that you have a great relationship. At the district. The work that you're doing.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks.
Okay, our final presentation is from Trevor Manager, International Education, who will provide an update on our international.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and chat with you again this year. It's always a pleasure to speak about our successful international program. Tonight, I wanted to share with you how, in particular, we market our international program. International education amongst all of the districts in British Columbia, but particularly the Lower Mainland districts, is extremely competitive. Pardon me. So I'd like to bring to your attention some of the ways that we do this. Next slide, please. However, before we get into that, I'd like to give you an update on something that we started last year. My colleague, Sarah Dick, and we initiated an exchange program with a high school in Japan. As it turns out, it was Sarah's same school that she attended as a high school student in Japan a few years ago. The school is called Sendai Ikoe Gakuen, and the young lady on the left there was our first student who went to Sendai last September, and the girl on the right is the student who is currently attending NWSS. And right now we have another student from our high school attending the school in Japan as well, with another one on board for September. So very successful program, and Ourselves in the international program, we're very happy to be able to be having our New Westminster students going out abroad and learning and expanding their horizons as well. And it's something that as our program, as this is successful, we're looking at expanding that to other programs in other countries as well. So next slide, please. So for this current school year, our FTE target for the entire year was 170 full-time students from September to the end of June of this year, including one semester students, 1 year students, and students who are in our program to graduate. So we're very happy we're able to achieve that. We're looking at 180 FTE for 2026, 2027, and it will be hard to make that target, but we're working hard to do that. Our goals also increase students, French language speakers, of course, always looking for graduating students. We want to maintain our numbers in Japan, Italy, Spain, and Germany. This coming year, we're seeing a spike in students from Germany and in Europe overall. And we think that has something to do with conditions in the States as well. So we're finally starting to see some of that reaction, and it's good for us here in Westminster. We always are building agent connections everywhere. That's the ticket to having a successful program. My colleague Eva Shen is working very, very hard in the Chinese-speaking markets. We're always trying to onboard new agencies, and we're also trying to support our smaller markets as well. We have very good connections with Australia, believe it or not. And every year we have 1 or 2 students coming to our program from Australia. South America, some other Eastern European countries, including the Czech Republic and Poland. And we're always looking for students who may not require our homestay program as well. So next slide, please. So without going into tons of detail for time, of course, we're always going to have challenges, and with challenges, we need to have some solutions. Challenge number 1 to our program is IRCC policy on post-secondary acceptance numbers. And although we're a high school program, many of our graduating students, they want to attend our program and go on to post-secondary, usually in British Columbia, but sometimes also in other parts of Canada. And the message that we've seen, of course, from IRCC is the number of students being permitted to attend post-secondary from abroad has been curtailed rather. So what that tells some of our high school students is, well, why go to school in New Westminster or Canada in general when I'm not going to be able to go on to post-secondary? They won't have space for me. So the solution to that is to get the message out. There is tons of space. I often say that if you want to sign up for a program in Langara for next year, they'll have a parade for you. So that's the message that our national organization that's also getting out, our provincial organization is getting out, is there is lots of space. So we're always working on that, especially when we're out doing our trips. Immigration policy changes in Australia and New Zealand. Those countries, of course, COVID is long gone. So they are our competitors for sure. And they're able to turn around study permit applications very, very quickly. IRCC, it takes, for whatever reason, it takes months. Where Australia and New Zealand, they can do it in a matter of weeks. Chinese economy and political relationship with Canada, although we're seeing some improvements with that. Chinese students, they have choices. They have Australia, they have New Zealand, and also Singapore and Thailand are more economical alternatives for them too. So it's our job to get out there and tell those folks how good our program is, how good education is in British Columbia, and once again, their post-secondary options as well. Of course, we have limited space for elementary school and middle school, and we just deal with that. Leslie Nickel is wonderful. She's always working hard to find a space. We do have an inquiry. One of the things though is by the time we do find out there is space, a family may have moved on to a different district that can guarantee the space. But that's just a reality that we're dealing with. Also, due to the conflicts in the Middle East, of course, airfares are going crazy. So what we're doing right now is all of us in the office, we've done our best to book ahead of time for next year. We tried to, and I think have been generally successful in beating the fuel surcharge increases. So we've been able to keep those costs down. So how do we market our program? How do we do that? A big one is fan tours. We're always showing off our wonderful high school to interested parents, students, and partners that we work with abroad. We have some folks from Spain coming to see our school tomorrow. We're happy to show them our school. We use printed materials. A few years ago, we invested in these brochures, which we use. We have them in multiple languages. They're easy to carry on our business trips as well. Online meetings, whenever we can, we will do online meetings with agencies. Much easier and much better on the jet lag when you can just zoom into the meeting rather than get on a plane and go there. I have a contact in Germany, and we do about 8 online meetings with parents every year. Of course, in-person parent meetings, in-person agent visits, and daily and prompt communication. We pride ourselves in our office with having an answer to questions that agents and parents may have. We'll have that answer to them within hours of getting the question. So, and next thing. So these are the trips that we took this past school year. And I think it's important to mention that our international program, like I believe all of them in British Columbia, are self-funding. So when you see these costs up here, this is coming from the revenue that's generated from the students who are attending our schools. So these are the trips we took and the costs that was involved. So Eva, our homestay manager and representative for China, she did 2 trips to China. She was taking over from a staff member who was leaving. So we thought it was important that she was to China twice this year to make those connections with our agents and partners and parents over there. It's always, that's 2 trips there, so that's not 1. When you see some costs that are a little bit higher, that usually means that there's an education fare that's been tacked onto that trip. And what I mean by that is, if we are going to a new country or even trying to support an agent who is very good for our school district, we will participate in an agency fare, and those are no longer cheap. We used to be able to do one of those for $2,000 a shot, but now they're looking at $3,000, $4,000 for one of those fares. They are important to do. I look after the Japanese market, and I haven't done an education fair in Japan in 15 years because I've been there so many times. I have so many connections. So I can go to Japan and do everything I need to do, hotels, travel, air, per diem, everything for $6,400. And that's like 10 or 11 days. So the more familiar we become with these markets as well, the more we can bring the cost down because we have agencies on the ground there that we don't have to recruit when there. So, and this is just kind of showing you the result of these trips. So China, Eva went to China 2 times, and she's working on agency contacts that we have already, but that is the result of her $11,000 trip. You can see the revenue on the right, all the way down there. I'm happy to say that Japan is our leading country of students, and for $6,400 and the day-to-day contact and support that our office gives our students, our revenue is $582,000, and on and on and on down the road there. So that is some of the ways that we market our trip. We're going through it here quickly. I'd like to just give a shout out to our staff members here. Sarah Dick, who has been like an assistant manager in our program. She is an awesome colleague and a wealth of information. Eva Shen, Eva's our homestay manager. She also took on the 100% of the Chinese marketing this year. It's kind of was a hobby for her, but she does it so well, and she's getting good results from that. And of course, there's our secretary interpreter at Mountain Park. And I'd like to say also that Sarah, Naomi, Eva, they're all residents of New Westminster. Both Sarah and Eva have children in the New Westminster School District. And all of us are laser focused on doing our best to have students come and attend our school district and to be able to support the valuable things we're hearing about tonight that people are doing to support students in the New Westminster School District. So that's it.
Thanks,
So,
Trevor.
if there's any questions, please.
Trustee Conlon.
Yeah, thank you for this presentation. It's always fun to see where our students are coming from. It's such a valuable program, to not only for the students coming in, but for what our students hear from the interactions as well with these students. I have a young gal I know who befriended international students and has gone to Europe to visit. So it's wonderful to see those relationships. I guess my question is, and this is more for the superintendent, is, it's always around capacity and programs, courses, and focus address. That's one of the challenges. What assurance are we as a district able to offer families who share these concerns with us, especially around, I often hear, my kid isn't getting into courses at the high school because of international students, or my kid isn't affordable because of international students. So I wonder what types of assurances we're able to offer to those families. I know that we are. So I just like to.
I can chime in briefly and say that I know a portable issue is not due to international students, because the majority of our international students are at the high school. And in elementary and middle grade now, we have 4 students. So I don't think it's an issue there. And I'm not privy to every counselor appointment that goes on, but I'm not aware of students that have not been able to take a course that they wanted to take or needed to take due to an international student taking a spot. I think I can't speak for the counselors, but I'll say that if there are students who do need a course for graduation, they have the priority, definitely.
Which is what I guess I'm just wondering how we respond, because I know that there are responses and those often come up, especially in September when students are misplaced.
Yeah, I think probably Geraldine might want to chime in, but I think part of the work that we've been doing on fine tuning the 5-block model is to make better use of all the blocks from the 18. And there are 166 of the 100 of the 2,600 young people in that building, so they can't say that they don't have an impact at all. But we are doing a better job of building the schedules out in order to make sure that there's blocks available to students in every block. Districts across British Columbia are in an interesting position that international students represent a significant revenue stream as well. So the choice to curtail the numbers by any significant amount, if you look at the total expense of the department against the revenue that it provides over and above the staffing output to support those students, it's significant support to staffing for all of our students. So I think that we're in a good place in terms of the balance, and I don't know if Geraldine and Bettina might want to comment on that, but
I think we've been doing great work this year. Got at that work earlier and are examining what are better ways to have more efficiencies within that timetable. We're already seeing some changes.
Trustee Carlson?
Thank you for this. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as I do believe that there's a public perception that international students are the cause of pressure, space pressure in their districts. But the reality is, you've just heard, they're not the reason districts are struggling to fill around. Larger issue continues to be insufficient long-term operational capital funding. I also think it's important for the public to understand that these international programs, they are generally subsidizing many programs, services, and supports for our students. So I just don't believe it's well known. I have a question for you though. I'm not sure it really did affect us. So I'm actually asking if I read that right, that was there much change due to the additional federal changes? How has that really affected us?
The effect it has is the number of graduating students that we recruited to the program, particularly from Chinese-speaking countries and territories, whatever we like to call them. For example, countries that have tight post-secondary space, again, Taiwan, Vietnam, China, and you can even pop in Hong Kong there. Those students are very good students, but getting into post-secondary is very difficult. Therefore, they look at coming to study in high school here in Canada with the long-term goal of being able to go to our post-secondary schools, whether it be, the holy grail, of course, is UBC and things like that, but they end up going to all the local colleges and other universities in Canada. And what's happened is, because the message out there is there's no space because of restrictions to international student numbers in post-secondary, students are saying, oh gosh, parents are saying, don't go to Canada because there's, why go to high school and then you can't get a spot in the university. So that has definitely impacted our program interest in graduation, particularly for those countries.
I guess I didn't hear my question well. I saw the numbers. I saw our target. Did we lower the target because of this? Or did we get the students in the younger grades, grade 9s and 10s, as opposed to the grade 5s?
No, we kept the target as the same, and we're just hustling to make up those numbers in other markets. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, no problem.
Thank you. Trustee Russell?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, wonderful work. I wanted to thank Steve Connolly for kind of naming that public discourse, which I think is worries me, I guess, a lot. I don't think I have heard that. I'm sort of thinking that I missed something, but just, I guess as a board, I think it's important to acknowledge that if that's happening, but that's happening in the context of rising racism and xenophobia in Canada, in BC. And so I just, want to share, care and concern for our students who we are welcoming from outside Canada, who are minors, children that we welcome in our care. And I think good to name and let's make sure we do make that very clear. We're talking about 4 kids in elementary and middle school, and at the high school it's a small number of a student body of 2,500 that we know the 5-block model well has. So yeah, thank you.
Trustee Andres?
Trevor, thanks for the work you do and your energy and enthusiasm of your team. It's greatly appreciated. How are you doing with homestays, getting homestay families? And then the second part of that is just how are families compensated for being homestay? Just a chance to contact while you have that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Once again, my colleague Eva is doing an amazing job. Duty above and beyond the call, I'd like to say. She's hustling for recruiting homestay families, and also, as I say, she's working on the Chinese market as well. And this year, she placed a record number of students in our homestay program. Kind of basically what I was saying before about how we're looking for students from other countries to fill the gap from China and some of those other countries. Those students who are coming from those countries, they all require homestay, whereas the students from China, Vietnam, Taiwan, et cetera, they don't so much. They stay with relatives, which are their own. So this year, Eva really rose to the challenge, and she's placed a record number of students in homestay families. She's still doing interviews. Homestay families receive $1,200 a month currently, and in July, that goes to $1,300 per month to be a host family of a student. Many of our homestay families, they host 2 students as well. So if anybody's interested in becoming a homestay family, we're always interested. Yes. We're always interested.
Take them out, replace them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate you coming to talk to us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, agenda item number 5 is correspondence. There is none. Agenda item number 6 is board committee reports. We did have a coordinating committee meeting last week, and minutes will be presented at the June meeting. Agenda item number 7 is reports from the senior management, and our first report is from our superintendent, and he will provide an update.
I'm going to start with the item that I had last. Trevor's gone, but he will know. I went to the International Culture Fair last week and spent about an hour and a half walking through the booth and eating an excessive amount of food because everybody had food, and it was amazing. And had really great conversations with young people who were at each of those booths. Some were in year 3 or year 2 of their time with us. Some had come in January and were leaving at the end of the year. All of them said they really had enjoyed their time. Some were off to post-secondary here in Canada. Others were heading home to Japan or wherever to go to post-secondary. But they were thrilled to share their culture, and they were thrilled to share the kinds of relationships they built while here. And it was really, really great. We picked up amazing conversations with people who had made friends who they can't wait to bring to their country. I know my 2 youngest kiddos, we had we were a homestay family for young people from Spain and from Italy, and they've gone to visit those families several times, and it has expanded their view of the world in a really special way. And so, yeah, people want to do homestay. I was reluctant. My wife made me, and I really am glad we did because it was wonderful. It was actually a great experience. So, yeah, there you go. Round 2 staffing is out and closes here, I think, on Thursday. I attended the Abra Kajazbra show at the high school. It was spectacular. The dinner was amazing, cooked by the Culinary Arts program. The choir was amazing. Jazz A, B, the ensemble, like it was all really remarkable. My youngest daughter was my date for the night. Dinner, listened to amazing music, and it was a great time. And she was as amazed as I was. And more than once, she said, "That one made my hair stand." Because it is amazing what young people do their work. Calvin had an awesome production of The Wizard of Oz, and was it The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz? It was a mixture of songs. Yeah, it was really great. I enjoyed it very much. I will never get over the fact it doesn't matter how old, what age group you go to a production or grad ceremony, people doing this, waving. I don't know. I think it's awesome and I love it. Elementary track meet set to go on Thursday. The kiddos in grades 4 and 5 this year. It was grade 5s last year. It's 4s and 5s coming from all elementary schools in the city. Thanks to all of the teachers in the schools who put in so much time planning and the work they've done, and Anne Marie for supporting, and Mark Lizelle. It's just it's a big effort, but it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to go and check it out on Thursday. Hundreds and hundreds of young people, like 1,000 from our system, all there. I stumbled onto a practice at Scoach when they were handing out their jerseys, and the kids were about 8 inches off the floor with excitement around, do I get to keep this? Of course, the answer is no. You have to return it to get your freezy. But anyway, lots of excitement in all the elementary schools I've been in for that. I'm excited about that. Also Thursday, Indigenous graduation and transition celebration. Really looking forward to attending that. And it was a highlight last year, and very excited about that. Lots of conversations had, communication sent out recently, meetings with the district PAC, and PAC had tweeted me about the recent announcement around capital projects in our district. And it really is a circumstance where what is generally a good news story also produces challenge and the need to lean into relationship and to work with our hearts in order to make sure we take care of a community that's going to face some challenges around that project if indeed government follows through with it. We're in the space now where we're building a business case to present, but that's a business case. It is not actually direction that the project is going to happen. And we're going to need to be really thoughtful and caring and supportive as we work through that, because it is largely a good news story and it produces challenge. And I think people need to know that we're really aware of that, and the board is very focused on it and has given clear direction that we need to be all in to take care of kiddos and families through this process. And I think that's. Did you have anything you wanted to add? No, good.
Thank you, Superintendent. Comments, questions?
Where's the track?
Opening ceremony started at high school at Mercer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Agenda item number 7B is an update on our long-range facilities plan, and Secretary Treasurer Ketchum will provide that update.
Thank you. Just a fairly brief update from myself, just to say that the long-range facility plan work is well underway and progressing well. A couple of weeks ago, we all met as a group to talk about scenarios that will be brought forward over the course of the next few weeks as we move our way into public engagement. We had a meeting last week with our partner groups through coordinating committees, so they had an opportunity to meet with our consultant to dive into some detail and present some questions to the committee. The superintendent reported a video surrounding our long-range facility plan work that went out, I think it was maybe yesterday, just recently, Friday. Alongside some website updates to help bring along communities with where we are in our process, the options or scenarios that the board will be considering. There is a community engagement session happening on Monday, June 1st. We encourage all those that are interested to attend. There is an in-person component here at the board office, as well as a virtual option for those that cannot make it there in person. So we look very much forward to engaging the community in that way. From 5:30, yep, thank you. From that opportunity, the scenarios will be brought forward to the board on June 16th, which is the final board meeting of this school year. That timing is strategic because at June 30th, the Ministry of Education requires all districts to submit a 5-year capital plan. So the natural progression is that we have recommendations stemming from the long-range facility plan that the board is supportive of. That makes its way into a capital planning process that we submit to the Ministry of Education. From there, they do with that information as they will consider the various priority projects across the province and make some decisions based on those submissions. So hopefully giving a glimpse into the process unfolding over the next couple of weeks and the various milestones that we hope to achieve. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Trustees? All right. Item 7C is going back to Secretary Treasurer for trustee election bylaw.
Yes, thank you. So there is an upcoming election for trustees and municipality happening October 17th of this year. The city of New Westminster conducts the trustee elections on behalf. The board has until August 4th to pass its election bylaw. We're bringing it here this evening for your consideration. The bylaw is attached. It has been reviewed both by legal for any changes as well as shared with the municipality of Westminster's chief election officer to ensure that there are no frictions between the bylaws that have been passed by the city and that being proposed by the district. There have been very few changes that have been included, most of which surround Section 7 of the bylaw, which pertains to the access of nomination documents and financing disclosure statements. So again, we would look to have 3 readings that this evening. Should the board choose not to have 3 readings, we could separate that into consideration of a 3rd and final or the June 4th.
So there are, as you said, 3 motions in front of us, and I'll read the first one, and if it passes, then we'll move to the next 2.
Can we ask questions before that? Or
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, Trustee Gross.
So you said there wasn't a lot of changes. My question was, when you can highlight whether they're just substantial changes from the previous election or if they're updates or basically administrative.
They're a lot largely administrative. So this, for example, Section 7 is where the changes happened. It mostly pertained to allowing electronic copies of documentation available to public, whereas prior there had to be a process where documents had to be viewed in paper here in the board office. So it just allows for easier mechanism of information to be accessed. That was largely the changes made. Everything else was the same.
And then, do these reflect the recent provincial updates?
Yes.
And the last one, I'm just wondering what steps the district takes to help voters be aware of the election, the process and the timelines, the opportunities of participating.
Sure. The district is working on some information to go on our website to point interested candidates or those interested in the election process in general, mostly back to the municipality that will be conducting our elections on our behalf. We will have timelines, we will have documentation provided by the BC Schools Trustee Association, more of a, so you want to be a trustee kind of document, which could be helpful for those considering running for election. The municipality, I believe, puts on a session sometime in the summer. I don't know what the date is, just through Elections BC and about financing of campaigns, those sort of requirements through those apps. And we will support, be supportive in those rules to provide any information you require or to give handouts such as the ECSTA documentation guidelines and pointing to various policies and procedures that may be of interest for prospective candidates or those that we want to know more about our district.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Trustee Russell.
Thank you. I just had a question about the but the article about disclosure, and I am not super clear on reading if that means that it would publish the candidate's mailing or residential address, or if it allows for that personal information to be protected.
It allows for it, but we have to inquire and make sure that they're not utilizing it in the appropriate way. So that information is available.
Is it mandatory? Like, so I'll explain my concern, just that they're, women in particular elected to local office, so to all office, are experiencing kind of rising harassment. And I've heard a number of conversations around the safety risks of having people's residential addresses published. So would seek to avoid that being mandatory.
Okay. We can seek clarification on it, but it says here in C sub 2, that on behalf of the first individual's access expected for obtaining the copy or other record will not be used for information included in the copy or other record except for purposes permitted under the local government law. So there's meant to be guardrails, but I understand your point, so I can do a little bit more in terms of what those circumstances are. I understand your point, but the information and documentation that is required under the act is the information that we must provide if that's the requirement.
And I guess, sorry, supplementary, I'm confused by, is it not a public website access then, or?
No, they have to come request it. So it's not that we just post it on our website.
Okay.
It is an electronic copy available that we would have here, that we could provide access to electronically, but we wouldn't necessarily be just having it sit on our website available for anybody to use.
So this is the bylaw template provided by,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so, question for you then, trustee Russell, are you saying that without clarity, it would be inappropriate to approve this, or go ahead?
Yeah, no, I think it's okay. I'm seeing that it says a mailing address for residential address. So I think that does provide for someone to offer the other. And I think it would just be helpful to, yeah, to clarify that.
Trustee Andres.
Yeah, Secretary Treasurer, I don't know how intimately familiar you are with the city's election bylaw. I'm looking at number 5 and alphabetization of candidates. I'm wondering if it seems like a peculiar order, and I'm just wondering if that's because the city has dictated it, or why we do that.
It is, the names on the ballot are consistent. So they also do that.
Thank you.
Can I just, for clarification, I'm just going to read something. The board in number 7, the board may or will make available to the public by website access without charge the disclosure statements of supplementary reports required to be made available by the BC Chief Electoral Officer on the Elections BC authorized website, other than a mailing address. Like we're saying, we're not.
Yes.
Seems like it's an exclusion.
Yeah, I think it's an exclusion. To me, it's okay. All right, we will move on to the first of the 3 motions here. That the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, complete all 3 readings of Trustee Election Bylaw 2026 TE SD 40-01. Do I have a mover and a seconder? And all in favor? Thank you. So we'll move on to the next one. That the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, approves first and second reading of the Trustee Election Bylaw 2026 TE SD 40-01. Mover, seconder, all in favor. Thank you. And finally, that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, approve the third and final reading, reconsideration, and final adoption of the Trustee Election Bylaw 2026 TE SD 40-01. Mover, seconder, and all in favor. Thank you, trustees. Okay, moving on to item 7D, annual facilities grant. It would be you. Okay, we're going back to Secretary Treasurer to walk us through this one.
Thank you. But there's a backgrounder in your packages, which is inclusive of a report of a plan for the annual facilities grant allocation. This year's allocation has gone up by some $80,000 to about 1.75 million. That submission was made on May 15th and represents our best intent for utilization of those dollars. Again, the AFG dollars are intended to support maintenance, renewal, and repair of our capital infrastructure to sort of keep it fresh as we can in terms of any sort of deferred maintenance that is presenting itself. It again ensures that building remains functional over the course of their useful life. With that, the process for our maintenance department is they typically go around with the districts and consultant principals to identify any significant works that principals see. They are also keenly aware of any works that tend to be required for preventative maintenance, which is reflected usually in a cyclical basis, or any priority projects, for example, that dovetail with the coming online of Westminster Elementary or some close upgrades to ensure that the original building is also sort of touched up alongside the new addition itself. So you'll see a variety of different projects ranging from accessibility upgrades, respectively, locks to new window pane replacements at Lord Kelvin who have stable pane glass and it's not very energy efficient, to some of those proposed QE hallway ceiling tile replacements or floor replacements to again give the school a bit of enough lift to go alongside the new addition that's coming online in 2027, as well as the underground roof repair for the parking lot. So those are sort of a variety that make up the 1.7 million. Of course, it is our best intention to undertake these projects should emergent projects come forward throughout the course of the year. Sometimes there are some minor pivots. However, largely these works do take place over the summer months, and so work is well underway to line up these works as students have baby this summer.
Thank you so much. I'll just make one comment. I mean, as with past years, I see a significant and ongoing focus on investments that will reduce our energy consumption. So that's awesome. Trustee Connolly.
I have one comment and 4 questions.
Sure.
Well, the comment is just thank you for the accessibility specific items. I know the efforts of the accessibility committee are highlighting the areas that need improvement, and really want to say that we appreciate it. Speak on behalf of the committee, I think I can freely hear that it's appreciated the engagement response from Matt and his team. So thank you. So the first question is around when a lot of parents see asbestos, that raises some red flags. So just want some clarity around asbestos abatement and what.
Which are you referring to a specific item or just in general?
Just asbestos abatement is right under accessibility.
Oh, sorry. So there is no asbestos abatement happening. We just put a confined space training that we're applying to. Okay, so confined space is like a narrow space where there's really only one way out. Usually a very short, narrow area. Okay. So there's a training program planned for our staff to ensure that they're able to enter that space safely. So there is actually no abatement.
Okay. And then does the transformer testing mean that we're looking at capacity for cooling?
No, in New West, there's a bit of a electrical shortage, because we're a very mature municipality. So unlike other municipalities, we have transformers at our own sites to provide power supply. So this is just testing the transformer to ensure its integrity, its health. So we will go that testing where we have the transformers on site.
And then the other one was on site upgrades, the exterior stairs, Cumberland and Howie. Wondering, like keeping an eye around the accessibility piece, will those stairs have a ramp?
We have to get back to you on that one. These are, I think, the stairs. Yeah, I'm not sure about the ramp.
I don't think so, given the price, but
yeah,
it would certainly, I would, strongly encourage that if it's possible to include a ramp that new stairs are being built. And then the other item was just around the dispenser portable installation.
Yeah.
And I know that there were some concerns expressed that they've heard from parents around whether classrooms are being fully utilized in the school. I've actually heard that some are being used for storage as opposed to for students. So just wanting to make sure that all spaces are inside of schools are being utilized before we're at it.
As a correct statement, we'll be using all the interior space before placing firms. Trustee Conley, can you confirm if the ramp recommendation at Howie has come through from the accessibility committee. I just want to make sure we have to
Yeah.
drop that one.
Yeah, no, we haven't done a site assessment there, but it sounds like these are new stairs that are being created, so just based on the work that I and the audit piece that we're doing, that is inland and stairs, I mean, I should cover access as well.
I'll bring that forward.
Thank you, trustee Carlson.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you and thank you to Matt too. Facilities work can sometimes be less visible to the public. But we need these for student safety and accessibility. I did have a question. A little bit, you talked about prioritizing. I guess I'm asking how factors like ventilation and cooling, how do they shape the priorities?
Sure. Typically, ventilation and cooling are projects that are undertaken through different envelope funding, school enhancement programs. It's a much larger pot, and it's specifically for things like carbon neutral requests and electrical type upgrades or ventilation. That's where we got funding for the school cooling. That's where we got our funding for NWSS. It's where we get our funding for upgrades like heat pumps and so on. So this particular envelope of funding is more smaller, but meant to sort of sustain the building life, whereas those projects are generally larger in nature, used to address those priorities.
This is a question on top of that, but maybe this is the place to ask it. But all right, is there a possibility to work with the city when they have a large action fund?
As in making a request to the city for our buildings, or what did we need
to improve the cooling in our buildings? Maybe a discussion for another time.
I'm not sure that I think they would prioritize like civic buildings, probably serve those respects, because the expectation would be that the Ministry of Education's infrastructure funding support, building upgrades or climate. Climate.
That's the expectation, isn't it?
Yeah, so that would probably be the avenue we would pursue.
Thank you.
Trustee Russell.
Thank you for all of this. This is audio specific, but has floor lighting at the high school theater shown up on the task list, or is it on the list anywhere? Because every time I'm at a production at that amazing facility, I know that there is no floor lighting, and I don't quite understand how that meets like our occupational safety.
Sure. The building was built to code, so it does ask muster from that perspective. Notwithstanding, I understand the concerns that have been brought forward. These particular projects were meant to extend the life of assets and buildings mostly. So that's why they don't necessarily fall here to certain criteria. I think there's been conversation initiated with the school, perhaps that there's an opportunity through various productions that be a cost that would be fundraised for or shared, just because it's not sort of part of the capital infrastructure of that space. And educationally, we can run the programs in there with the lighting we have. It may not be the stage sort of production and lighting that is fully dimmable, but currently those standards are being met in time for instructional purposes. Now I understand that the actual purposes, how you want to carry out a production, have a different layer or level of sophistication or desire for effect. But those will be outside of sort of the capital dollars that we have.
If I can, I am the stage projection lighting is also important, but I'm actually referring to just sort of minimal safety lighting on the floor for people in the theater. So I bring my elderly in-laws to the theater, and it is, when it's dark, there's nothing to indicate those stairs are on the floor. So, people are often seated late, and when they're going down the stairs, sorry, I feel like I'm really in a lot of detail here, but appreciate your patience. It's actually a facility safety issue. It's got nothing to do with action. So it would just seem really unfortunate if, there's fundraise dollars, program dollars going into what's really a pretty basic, piece of equipment, I would think. Yeah.
We can take that.
Thanks for that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we are moving on to item 7E. Associate Superintendent Lawler is going to provide an update on school fees for 2026-27.
Thank you. So in your package, you have information on the school fees. We've given you what the school fees would have cost last year in comparison to what we're looking at moving forward. I won't go through all of them, but I will highlight a few key points and then open it up for questions if you have any of those. So first of all, with regard to school supplies, which are optional, you will see a range, and this can be approached in different ways in different schools. For example, a student can be charged a fee, and then a teacher would be allocated a budget based on what that amount can purchase for the classroom. So that's one option that is occurring in some schools. And different grade levels will have different supplies that the teacher wants to purchase. So we're seeing partly that reason. The other reason you're seeing that range, it may be that in some schools, parents are provided with a link that they can use to purchase the supplies directly. And depending on what they elect to purchase, there can be a range in shipping as well. So that accounts for why you see that range. With regard to recorder fee, you'll see that there's no cost for recorder coming up, and we've learned that recorder is so that's why. The other things I would like to point out are related to fees. So you will see that athletic fees do fluctuate. That is determined by some factors like how many games are going to be taking place, what tournaments are there, what are the fees that are associated with the tournaments, what are the TTOC costs for coverage, and what are the costs of referees. So just keep in mind for that. When we look to specifically NWSS, you will see that student activities and leadership fee went from $30 last year down to $25, and that is because the school has been able to strategically find some educational activities at a discounted rate, or they're engaging with the same presenter again, and because they are doing that, the presenter is giving them a better rate. And then another point, photography, that also has decreased, and that is because they have been able to secure a more reasonable bulk cost. So memory cards, for example, buying in bulk has allowed them to decrease that. So much work has gone into trying to make efforts to decrease costs. For tech ed, you'll see that there was no cost indicated for last year, but there's a cost this year. When in fact, we need to acknowledge that there was a cost last year, it just was not reflected in this document. The cost was $20 last year, and it remains the same. So those are some key points. If anybody has questions, happy to answer or find the answer for you.
Thank you so much. And just to clarify, where there are barriers, we have a process that's well communicated, and
Yes, we have a hardship clause.
Yeah.
Families contact the school administration. No students will be denied anything with regard to these.
thank you so much. Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. I think it's really important we continue balancing meaningful student opportunities with the awareness of the financial pressures. So thank you for speaking about that. I was going to ask about what's available for parents. Thank you very much. And also, could you please pass on our appreciation for those who worked so hard to get such great deals and keeping the price down. Thank you.
Trustee Connolly.
I'm just wondering, just for full transparency for families,
And these student fees include all tournaments that students might attend, like if they're on the basketball team, they're going to 2 or 3 tournaments. Do these fees, is this fully what I expect to pay?
So there's 2 things that can happen. Sometimes teams will get invited to like an invitational that they know they're going to be invited to. Their record makes it so that they get noticed, they get invited. So sometimes that kind of thing. And then we have teams that make zones or provincials, and they don't put that into the fees. The district helps teams go to those so that they don't have to charge a fee for something they might.
Is that communicated to family then too, like there may be fees for athletics and whatnot? I know there's a challenge sometimes with communication, so I wonder if that's.
I would suspect so, but we can follow up.
We're really making an effort this year to make sure that communication is very clear. So. I was shocked at the price of wrestling. And I had heard that the students, kind of, again, small town, you hear lots of things, that they were practicing out of district at a different school. I'm wondering if those fees were contributing to, rental at other space. That's a curiosity for me because it's a shame that parents are having to cover costs because we don't have the space. But thank you. It's nice to see that. Most of the same, especially for the dreams programs as well. Those leadership programs, those are so important. So
Thank you. Associate Superintendent is still with us for a report on sanctuary schools.
thank you. So you have within your package our report on sanctuary schools. And in New Westminster School District, the sanctuary schools policy was adopted in 2017. And it ensures that all students living within our community are able to attend public school regardless of immigration status. This policy reflects the board's continued commitment to equity, access, and inclusive public education. This report was prepared by Leslie Nickel, who leads our central registration department, and it provides comprehensive data that demonstrates the strength of the well-established processes that we have in place in our school district. It also reflects the district's role as a leader at the provincial level in implementing sanctuary schools practices. The sanctuary schools policy supports school-age children, again, regardless of citizenship or immigration status, by ensuring that they can access education, experience a safe and inclusive learning environment, and participate fully in their school community. Importantly, barriers to entry have been minimized. Students are typically able to be registered and placed within 2 to 5 days, ensuring timely access to education. We're also seeing increased trust and confidence in the system, as is reflected by the growing family engagement that we're experiencing. I would like to acknowledge and thank the Welcome Center staff, whose professionalism and care are central to this work. Our partners at Mosaic and the settlement workers in schools program, to Leslie Nickel and the team at Central Reg, as well as our communications manager, Mike Lee, for their leadership, compassion, and ongoing commitment. A key strength of our model in New Westminster is the coordinated network of support that surrounds each student and family. Within our schools, students also have access to confidential supports and caring and responsive school teams. I won't review the entire report in detail, but I do want to highlight some key points. This report indicates steady growth over time in the number of students and families that are being served. You see that in 2021, we went from 6 students to a peak of 75 students in 24-25, and currently 69 students are registered in 25-26. It's also important to note that sanctuary schools often serve as a transitional support. As of this year, 16 students remain enrolled in our schools, but are no longer counted under the policy, as their families have voluntarily updated their documentation and their immigration status. In closing, this report demonstrates that the sanctuary schools policy is making a meaningful difference for students and families. It is reflected as a shared commitment to ensure that all students feel safe, welcomed, and supported in our schools.
Thank you so much. Comments, questions from trustees? Trustee Conley?
Just thank you for this report. I'm wondering if our district being just seeing these numbers and knowing the care and support that some of these families and students are needing in their schools, possibly above and beyond what we're able to provide. Are we being impacted? We've heard of the Metro branch about cuts from federal funding that's affecting the Swiss worker program. Are we seeing that in our district, and is there something?
So a meeting tomorrow with Rick to talk about an advocacy plan. There's a letter being written to be
In Swiss native.
To bring forward a letter for advocacy board to consider and our own communications. They're also wanting to communicate to federal officials the challenges they're facing. I know there's a meeting. Did you have one?
Yes, I do actually have a meeting scheduled with MP Jake Sawatsky on Friday to discuss this very topic. So I reached out to the superintendent to get a little bit more information about her. I have just a very high level understanding of what's happening.
So tomorrow he and I will meet to go through those that information, make sure we put it together in a way that's supportive of your conversation with the member of parliament. We're anticipating significant cuts in supports related to that federal funding. And those cuts would impact our ability to provide supports to families who come to us from communities where our most significant language groups are represented. The FTE loss is more than 2 of a group of folks that's less than 7, so it's a significant cut. It is indicative of or emblematic of a trend across our partner agencies in that as provincial and federal funds are clawed back to not-for-profits or other agencies that support our families, we notice that impact in our schools and that families receive less wraparound support by partners, which makes the work of supporting them and their families more challenging. And we are not alone in that concern. It was a significant conversation among superintendents at our last meeting. So yes, it is not good news.
No, I'll appreciate you bringing forward advocacy because I think it's really important. I know there's work being done at the ELL consortium, but I think it's important that we make noise that are in their own subjects.
Trustee Carlson?
Sure, and sweet. I appreciate the focus on the work being done on this. I'd like to ask, I wonder if you talk about what sanctuary school practices actually look like operationally in schools. And then I'll follow that with how is staff being supported in balancing the student safety, the privacy, the legal responsibilities. That's an awful lot to throw on stuff.
Well, confidentiality is a key piece of sanctuary schools. So the information comes into Central Reg, and then the students go out into schools. But no one would know that those students are sanctuary schools students. The confidentiality is very high.
So as far as staff member would know, it's a student from their school, they can be permanent residents.
Yeah, they would know
Thank you
their
for clarifying.
Thank you so much, Geraldine, for that report. Our final report from senior management is an operations report, which is shared for information from the speaker. But there is an opportunity for questions or comments from trustees at this point. And I just had a couple that were related to completion of projects. So QEE is opening when?
January 2027.
Okay. And the memorial lands will be, when will the temporary fencing happen? Do we know? Sorry.
The timing is still slated for September, but we have run into some drainage challenges. So that hence the phase. We're working through some issues that have
Expensive issues? Yeah.
I mean, everything is
Okay.
expensive on that.
Okay.
But it's funded out of capital, not,
Yeah, that's
not,
right.
you know.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll leave it there. So we'll move on to new business, agenda item number 8. And the first item is a chair report. I have a few things that I wanted to cover tonight, starting with just so many opportunities to attend year-end celebrations right now. I know planning and prep is being done for the Indigenous Transition Grant Ceremony. This is an important event that honors and celebrates the achievements, resilience, and cultural identities of Indigenous grads and their families within New Westminster Schools, grads and students that are transitioning to new schools. I am very excited to be able to attend on Thursday at NWSS. There's also several student showcases happening over the next couple of weeks, and I would encourage trustees to connect with principals of the schools for which you're the liaison so that you can participate in those. There's also year-end dance performances, musical theater performances at the high school that you can attend, always like top quality. There is the NWSS Scholarship Anniversary Evening on June 15th at NWSS, and of course the grad ceremony on the 23rd. As I mentioned, I do have a meeting scheduled with our MP to discuss the importance of settlement workers in schools and the critical role that these workers play in supporting newcomer students and families. And the conversation is just going to focus on the value of maintaining strong supports and advocacy for continued investment in these services. I also had intended on my list of things to discuss with him was funding for the New Westminster Youth Hub, which we wrote a letter in support of continued funding. He was actually at a recent DPAC meeting and let us know that funding through the Building Safer Communities Initiative has been restored. It's just rather than going directly to organizations, it's going to go to the city for redistribution. So I guess it'll be up to the city to determine whether the Youth Hub continues to receive funding. So I'll follow up on that with the city. And then I just wanted to leave with a reminder that New Westminster Schools recently announced public information sessions regarding the 2026 update to the Long Range Facilities Plan. The Long Range Facilities Plan is a provincially mandated strategic roadmap that guides decisions around school capacity, future construction, facility upgrades, and long-term planning to support student enrollment growth and educational needs. So June 1st, 5:30 p.m. here or via Zoom. Families, staff, students, and community members are encouraged to attend and provide feedback as the district continues to plan for growth and student capacity needs. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 8B, which is an update from our policy committee chair, Trustee Russell.
Thank you. So we have a policy committee. Members are myself, Preston Carlson, and Trustee Connolly, and Superintendent Davidson. We have met several times to plan the work of policy review, which is prepared by our board. We've been assessing existing district policies to identify those updates and to ensure that they're in compliance with the current legislation.
We've also considered guidance from the BC School Trustees Association, or BCSTA, their policy review advisory committee, which recently completed a one-year policy review project. Report of that project provides guiding documentation, sort of templated policies, based on quite a comprehensive review of best or promising practices from other districts to support boards of education in reviewing and modernizing our policies. We are bringing forward a set of updated draft policies to the June open board meeting, and I'm proposing those to be drafted, to be finalized. So thank you and your team for that work.
Well, don't make us yet.
Moving on to item 8C, I just want to point out we are back on track in terms of time. We have an update and a motion from our climate action working group. Over to you, Trustee Lucas.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just read the backgrounder. Our group's small and very energetic, and we have a lot of enthusiasm. And we saw earlier today Angela Jurgensen with the Monkey Rebels Club, and have other educators who are equally passionate who come out, and have their director who is keeping us in check. But this was the letter. And so the backgrounder is just, while the province has developed some climate change curriculum at some levels of schooling, consistent implementation across all grade levels has not yet been achieved. A structured province-wide climate change curriculum would support students in developing the scientific literacy, critical thinking, and civic awareness necessary to navigate one of the defining issues of their time. In an era of complex and often conflicting information, equipping students with reliable scientific knowledge is essential. The Westminster School District believes that the adoption of this curriculum supports its 5-year strategic plan goals, specifically by innovative, relevant learning experiences that develop critical thinking, communication, and problem-solving skills.
And there is a motion attached to that the Board of Education of School District number 40, New Westminster, write a letter to the Ministry of Education and Childcare advocating for the further development and implementation of mandatory climate change curriculum. And second, thank you. And did you wish to speak any further to the motion?
Not really. Like, I think I just want to acknowledge one of our partners, Laura Kwong, in a different role now presented a similar motion at BCC PAC, which also passed. So I just want to recognize that this is something that students and families are hungry for and that they're interested in. And I think it's really important that when students have this interest, that we encourage it, because it helps combat against this feeling of anxiety that there are all of these things beyond our control. And students, when they have the right information and they have the support of adults, they can do amazing things. And I think it's our responsibility to support students in achieving that whenever possible.
I'll call the question then. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trustee Collins.
Sorry, I know we're all tired of that. So I just wanted to bring back up at the 2025 AGM, the BC School Trustees Association, there was a motion which called for climate action and sustainability curriculum. I just want to share that the ministerial response to that was that they would ensure that both climate change and critical thinking are priority topics considered as part of any future curriculum review and revision process. So I really do think this motion and the one for the Monkey Rebels builds on the existing advocacy our board has supported through the PCSB AGM. And I will support this motion with amendment. So I would like to propose the amendment that include funding to support the implementation of the new curriculum.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, to also include funding to support implementation and materials to support the new curriculum. And another one, and I I'm not exactly sure the wording on how this would look, but support or mandate fund professional development focused on climate change and how to teach.
So it's the second one.
Yeah.
Two amendments.
Additions. Yes. Yeah. So first,
Financial support to implement.
Yeah.
And then the second one is funding for professional development. Okay.
do you want me to do that?
I would second that.
I don't know if you need to.
I think those are fairly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor. Looking for some, I'll call the question on the amendment.
Actually, there was any discussion on it.
Oh, we have to move it. You have to get it on the floor.
We'll have to get it on the floor and then we can discuss.
We did
I second it.
Okay, and any discussion about the amendment?
Yeah, I think, so Jenny, I don't know if you recall our conversation, but so this was something that we went back and forth on, with the wording on the original motion. We were wondering about whether we should attach funding to it, and I think the reason that we left it out at this point was we were trying to, I think, indicate our willingness to work in the capacity that we could, regardless of the funding support. And so I think we were trying to show our enthusiasm, and again, we've piloted many different things in the district, and so I think that was our thinking, if I'm representing the group's discussion correctly. That was kind of where we landed, right? Yeah. So that was our thinking, but we could change that.
Trustee Johnson.
That was one of my questions. The additional mandatory curriculum requirements were introduced provincially. What kinds of supports, resources in schools and educators likely?
Yeah, because we had the K-3 rollout, right, and that document came out earlier this year, and so Ross has indicated like we're moving in this direction. We're going to keep bringing this documentation out, and again, that's our curiosity, right? What does that look like? So.
Trustee Russell.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one, I guess, the amendment. And I know we have often called on the province to fund their initiatives for sure. I'm off the top of my head and actually trying to think if the province has funded, provided funding for it in particular, but I guess I do, I feel the entire public education system is underfunded. Absolutely. I think it is in need of a massive reinvestment, but I do kind of think, their role is curriculum. Our role is local initiative. So I'm not sure that I believe that there has to always be that sort of, I guess I feel like new curriculum is not necessarily a burden, it's a resource and it's something that educators, students ask for. So I think I would be comfortable with proceeding just with the committee's ask.
Trustee John.
Yeah, just in closing, I do not want to take away from where the committee landed, but I do find that new curriculum and certainly have enthusiasm for this motion, but new curriculum brings its challenges. We're often finding that teachers are struggling to find resources. Some teachers need additional training on how to incorporate that into their classes. I just don't think there's a harm in asking to support.
Okay, well, I will call the question on the amended motion, on the amendment then. All in favor? Okay, the motion is passed. So we're voting on the amended motion that includes financial support to implement and professional development. All in favor? Thank you very much. we'll get that letter out. I guess just wanted to have a quick discussion, bring us back to the Monkey Rebel presentation earlier, and wondering if we want to draft a letter of support for their appearance at this web-standing committee. Okay. Seconded, and all in favor.
Is that specifically what they were?
They were looking for support. Yeah. Oh, sure. No, please do.
I think the idea was they didn't want to stand up to be front of the governmental agencies that they came to, without even understanding what they were going to be saying on behalf of the school district, and then wanting to know if they were able to mention that they had the support of the school boys, to be able to share the information that they asked.
So we can absolutely provide that. Okay, so all in favor? Thank you. Okay, we're on to agenda item 9, old business. There is none. And on to trustee reports. Are there any trustees interested in sharing a report tonight? Trustee Carlson?
Try to keep it short and sweet. I've appreciated connecting recently with several community groups, including I can speak, QEE, Elizabeth Phillips Secondary, the Canadian Parents for French, and Hume Park Homeowners. I'm grateful for their advocacy, care, and ongoing support that families show for students and for schools across the district. Although I'm not able to attend every event or meeting due to scheduling realities, I always appreciate hearing from families and the school communities, and I will do my best to attend as many student events and performances that you've talked about and celebrations as possible. One highlight for me today was attending the student signing ceremony at NWSS. It's incredible seeing students recognized for their years of hard work and commitment that reach these important milestones. As we head into June, I also want to acknowledge Pride Month and the importance of ensuring every student feels safe, respected, valuable, and able to fully belong in our schools and our community. And finally, I want to acknowledge all staff, families, caregivers, and students moving through what is an incredibly busy month and season in our schools. And so thank you all for what you do with our kids. Thank you for those of you that are with our students every day, and families who support and continue to advocate for voices. Thanks.
Trustee Carlson, any other reports? Trustee Andres?
Yes, coming out of a couple of committees or a committee and working group. So climate action working group, we're meeting again next week. So we got that letter kind of at our last meeting, and we're just looking to get some policies drafted that we can bring forward to the board for the board to review. Anti-racism committee, we're looking at defining the function of the committee moving forward. So we've seen a lot of we've had a leadership change, and we've done some really good work around calendars and getting people having a more specific way for people to access anti-racism resources in our district. But we're wondering as we move into a new board, what will that committee's function be, and have we met what the guiding principles of the function of the committee were. So just some big things to discuss and finalize moving forward. Meeting with PACs, especially hearing from the Lord Tweedsmuir community. So really hearing a lot of perspective, and looking forward to meeting again tomorrow with our PAC meeting. So again, new school bills like this are incredible opportunities, but also they impact some school communities disproportionately. So be there and hearing from that community. And finally, I got to be invited to a classroom. Ms. Miller does this every year at Lord Kelvin, and she got me in for a game of Simon Says. And I'm happy to say that I defeated Vice Principal McLeod, and I got a few more people to follow along. But I think that we were, I don't know if Superintendent Davidson.
So I gloated about my victory last year, even posting a picture to Instagram. This year I was soundly defeated by everybody. I was the worst.
So no picture.
No picture. No, why would I do that? I just skulked out of the room.
And that's the end of my report.
Thanks, Trustee Connolly.
I just want to say, the accessibility committee did an audit at Kelvin, as their last accessibility audit for the year. And something came out of that, just the value, I mean, they're always recognizing and appreciate the value of our student liaisons. I don't know the other committees, if you have any student liaisons, but we have talked with the superintendent, I spoke with them about doing some sort of certificate of recognition for these students who at the time, they've been at schools and helped with these audits and brought real-time experience and their own expertise to these. So it's worthwhile for us as a district to recognize the efforts of these students. They brought a lot of value to these various committees. So we can look at doing
Yeah, that's really thoughtful. Thanks. Okay, we are at agenda item number 11, question period. As per policy 7.1 on public participation, the board welcomes and provides for public participation by members of the community. The board believes this is essential for improving decision-making and creating more inclusive, effective, and sustainable outcomes. The board expects all persons attending its meetings to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Members of the public may ask a question and seek clarity on matters that arose during the board meeting. The time limit for comments or questions shall be 3 minutes, excluding any responses to questions from trustees. So first, I will look online to see if there are any folks who would like to participate in question period. Not seeing any, I will open the floor to folks in the room.
Don't be shy.
Just ask you to introduce yourself.
My name is Jennifer Vanderham, and I am the newly elected chair of the district PAC, along with my friend Cyrus, who's coming tonight, that you will see him later. We're gonna divide and conquer. Laura left a big footprint, so nobody wanted to fill her shoes with one. Yeah, okay, so I'm just gonna share an update actually. At our May DPAC meeting this past month, we held our AGM, elected a new executive for the coming school year. So the new co-chairs are myself and Cyrus, and some familiar faces continue, including Krista and Laura as treasurer and secretary. And we have 2 new members at large, Sarah Arboleda and Danielle Carlson. So we are looking forward to continuing to represent parents and caregivers in the district and supporting all of the PACs in each school. We also welcomed a special guest at our May meeting, Member of Parliament Jake Swatsky. Jake answered questions about federal support for youth mental health, post-secondary, and trades transitions, teacher shortages in French language programs, the impacts of housing and immigration policy on school infrastructure planning, and compensation for school districts facing revenue losses from reduced international student enrollment. On tonight's agenda, DPAC would also like to express support for the Rebel Monkeys and the proposed letter advocating for the further development and implementation of mandatory climate action curriculum in BC schools. DPAC would also like to express our full support for the Monkey Rebels presentation and advocacy requests. We commend these students for their leadership, courage, and thoughtful engagement on one of the defining challenges facing their generation. Their call for stronger and more explicit climate education, expanded sustainable transportation access, and accelerated investment in renewable energy reflects the urgency many young people are feeling about the future they are inheriting. New Westminster students deserve opportunities to meaningfully engage with the climate science, environmental stewardship, and civic action throughout their educational journey. And the final item is portable overheating, which I'm sure comes up repeatedly at this time of year. But we would also like to acknowledge the district's ongoing work to add cooling improvements to the building across the district. At the same time, we recognize that many hundreds of students are still learning in portable classrooms and that we remain years away from being able to remove many of these portables from school sites. So DPAC would continue to encourage the district to explore every possible opportunity to add cooling solutions to portable classrooms as well. So this past May, our region entered stage 2 water restrictions immediately, bypassing stage 1 entirely. So this is a stark reminder of the increasingly hot and dry conditions we are facing. Summer weather appears to have arrived early, and relying solely on open windows and portable fans is not a realistic long-term strategy for maintaining safe and healthy learning environments, particularly when outdoor air quality is impacted by wildfire smoke events. So as climate conditions continue to intensify, we would like to encourage you to ensure that all students, including those in portables, have access to safe, climate resilient learning spaces as a priority. Thank you for this opportunity to provide the update on behalf of parents and caregivers in the district.
Thank you and congratulations.
Yeah, if you have questions. I literally was like texted this. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm going to redirect questions too. Thank you.
Good evening, Carrie Andrews, 409 president. So I'm here today not just as the 409 president, but so as someone who is deeply saddened, frustrated, and heartbroken by the decision to eliminate the Indigenous support worker positions in Westminster Schools. I want to be clear, we do fully understand changes need to happen. We need to do things to improve the graduation rates, the attendance rates, and things like that. So I want you guys to acknowledge that part. And we understand the need to, basically these conversations are happening all over the province, and I understand that. One thing that New Westminster is doing that is different than other schools in the province, other schools have not completely eliminated the Indigenous support workers, and New Westminster has. So restructuring does not have to mean elimination. It should mean incorporating additional educational supports while maintaining the Indigenous teachings, relationships, and ways of supporting students that have been built over decades. It should mean strengthening supports, not removing the foundation that we're built on. These workers are not simply employees. They are trusted community members who have walked alongside students and families during some of the most difficult moments in their lives. They have supported students through trauma, racism, grief, identity struggles, and crisis. They created spaces where Indigenous students felt safe, valued, heard, and connected. Those relationships cannot be replaced by a new title, paperwork, or a service model. Trust like that takes years to build. What concerns me the most is the message this sends at a time when we speak so often about truth and reconciliation. Reconciliation cannot simply be words, land acknowledgements, or strategic plans. It must be reflected in actions and decisions. Removing the very people doing this work every single day does not feel like reconciliation. It feels like we are moving backwards. We have heard directly from Indigenous parents who are devastated. One parent shared that her children have worked with the same Indigenous resource team since 2008, and that those relationships are built on safety, trust, and lived understanding. Her daughter is now searching online, asking whether school districts can take away Indigenous support services. Think about that for a moment. Before these layoffs have even happened, Indigenous children are already feeling fear and uncertainty. We have also heard from staff who are warning that the loss of these workers will significantly increase workload and complexity for existing support staff workers while reducing the level of care students receive. This is not sustainable for students or workers. As a union, yes, we are devastated to lose incredible members, but this goes far beyond labor relations. Over the years, I've personally learned from these workers, listened to their stories, and witnessed firsthand their unwavering commitment to students, families, and the community. Their impact reaches far beyond Indigenous students alone. The board still has an opportunity to show leadership here. There is still time to reconsider this direction and find a way to maintain these vital supports within our schools while continuing the work to improve student outcomes. Those goals do not have to compete with one another because meaningful reconciliation is not demonstrated through statements, it's demonstrated through choices. And retaining these Indigenous support workers while building stronger educational supports would be a real act of reconciliation. I asked how this plan truly focuses on strengthening attendance and engagement through relationships and cultural connection when all the trusted workers who have spent many years in our district, for most of them, over 22 years. They have just been eliminated, which shows everyone is just disposable. So I do ask the board, like, how do you plan to stand by that when you're taking all of the trusted people away from our Indigenous students directly? Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, for coming to share your thoughts. I hear you. I won't reiterate, the reasons the decisions were made. We know there are real implications to students, to families, and to our staff, and they're all going to experience loss. We're saying goodbye to some of our staff, as you said, who have invested in our district for many, many years, and they've built relationships with students and families. What I can share is that we will move forward, as we always do, with awareness of this loss and with compassion for those that are involved. Thank you for coming to speak to me.
Thank you.
Yes, come on forward and just introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Junior Chong, and I am on here on behalf of some of the families from the Kite Elementary. So we have recently learned that the society is looking at a potential route going from the community to River Spencer, but with the caveat that they have said that there's unconfirmed funding for 3 walk-ins plus route next. So I guess one of the questions that family that's thinking is, does the school district and board have any insights as to how the next will be decided? And then the secondary question to that is, one, I know that this year there was supposed to be 3 routes as well, right? But 2 in the cut, but the one going from Victoria, actually due to various delays, didn't get started up until after spring break this year, which is quite unfortunate. Would there be any cost saving that we can kind of borrow from that, that could extend to next year's funding, for example? Again, I'm not sure if this is something that board or the school district have a say on, but something that we want to know is talked about. 2 additional questions that's related more to items tonight. So you mentioned that recorder was removed from elementary school. What was the rationale behind, I guess, the program removal? And then this is more for personal understanding. Why is it that the boys sport program costs much more than the girls? Like, is it coaching? Is it travel? What's my question?
Thank you, Junior. Can we split these questions, I think. So do you want to speak to the walking school bus?
I think Bettina's best
Bettina?
suited to that because she's involved with that.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the society is obviously an independent party that works with families to identify routes that are appropriate for the demand of service. Currently, those routes are funded by the city of New Westminster. So I couldn't speak to whether the amounts that they save by starting to be returned. I don't have a response for that particular piece. The question, however, was raised upon the move of the EFI program to Westminster, whether there was an opportunity to synergize the route and contemplate one that either contemplated a bus route or a different route altogether to service the population that we're going there to serve. That question was posed to the society. The society is then working with the community that were interested in potentially starting up or repurposing the existing route. It was made clear through the survey that if a new route, a fourth route, were to be spawned, better word, created. Like my spawn is not the right word. Created. That then that parents might have to pay some sort of amount to supplement the creation of that route because the district, the city, appropriated amount for that route. So those conversations again, because they're third service party provider, we facilitated those connections, but are leaving the ultimate creation between the society and families.
Has there been any tentative timelines provided by the society to the district?
No, we haven't revisited that. I followed up with them maybe a month ago. I can revisit that again to identify whether there has been further communications and progress surrounding that.
Thank you. Recorder removal?
Recorder removal, well, what I can tell you is that when we looked at the cost of it, and reached out to schools, we were told that, for example, for extension, no longer want that. We were not informed as to why or for how long that is. With regard to the male and female, I can only speculate it has to do with the number of games that the students participate in, but we can. One thing that points out to the two equities that we talked about around girls and boys sports on that additional costs for the sport itself. So,
Superintendent.
So I think I don't want to say what I think it is without actually doing the digging to find it. I would say that usually you see it more in sports where coaches can choose to do 3 tournaments or 5, 2 or 6, usually. About the not so much where there's a season of play that's similar in length, but where you have some league games, but much of your season is built on tournaments like volleyball. Some coaches go after it more and some less. So I know that's part of it. That is not to suggest that the equity question is. It's just that I don't know what percentage of it would lie in each space. It's been the hardest piece to nail down because when you talk to a coach, they'll say, well, this is how many tournaments I'm in. This is what the referee costs. We leave on Thursday, I need a TOC Friday. And so they do a good job of budgeting what they build in budgets. So there's more to learn.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I mean, Danielle and I co-authored a motion around athletic equity a couple of years ago, and I'm really, really pleased with a lot of the improvements that have come into our district. We're doing intramurals at the high school now. We weren't doing that before. We're doing, you said, track meets with 4-5, grade 4-5. There's a lot more attention and investment at our mid schools. We still have a gender equity problem, and you and I are going to sit down and talk about that. soon. We've already talked about that. And so, yeah,
I would say the biggest difference here I'm seeing is around volleyball. And I mean, junior girls basketball is more than junior boys basketball. So I think there's a lot of variables. It's not just a boy versus girl.
If Austin is about how many tournaments a coach wants to go to. And you know, our coaches are all volunteers. We have folks who are club coaches and then they come and coach here. They don't necessarily do as many tournaments with their team as they might have. So there's a lot there. The unpack for sure.
Thank you for coming. Final call for question period. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 12, which is notice of meetings. We will meet on Tuesday, June 16th. It's a little out of our regular meeting schedule due to the NWSS grad celebration. So June 16th at 6 p.m. for our final open meeting of the year. And finally, we have reporting out from in-camera meetings, just noting the record of the April 28th in-camera meeting, and we're at adjournment. I get a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.